Dr. Rangarajan, highlight what you made as 0.1% IIP numbers. Did it shock you? And in light of this, what kind of action can we expect from the RBI?
Well, it is disappointing. One had expected that there will be better pickup of industrial production in April. Certainly, it is turned around from being negative in the previous month, but the growth rate is very, very small. And I do expect that the various actions that we have initiated in the recent period will have their impact, and we can see a pickup in industrial production in the subsequent months. As far as the Reserve Bank is concerned, I think the decline in industrial production and the slow growth in industrial production will be a factor in evolving the policy. But at the same time, the Central Bank of the country has a responsibility to control inflation. They will look at the inflation number, which will come in the next few days. And alongside the decline in the growth rate of the economy and the industrial production, they will take into account what happens or what is happening to the price behavior and then come to a decision. And I think if the non-food manufacturing inflation, which is some indicator of the demand pressures in the economy, shows some decline, perhaps there will be greater space for the monetary authority to ease policy.
But Dr. Rangarajan, to the extent that the external environment is looking very challenging and could possibly deteriorate from here on, do you worry about the impact that could have on India's exports, and as a result of that, the export numbers, the impact that could have on the IIP number?
Well, the impact of what is happening in the rest of the world over the Indian economy has become more important because of the increasing integration of the Indian economy with the rest of the world. Therefore, one needs to look at what impact the global system will have on the Indian economy. But therefore, there is need to ensure that our balance of payments deficit is also kept within reasonable limits. Because the way the external world will impact the Indian economy will be through two routes. One is the trade route, and the other is the route of the capital flows. To the extent to which the global economy doesn't do well, it will have an impact on our exports. To the extent to which the Europe and other countries are not able to resolve their crisis effectively, it will have an impact on the capital flows to the emerging economies and to India. Therefore, we need to take into account what will happen to our exports, what will happen to our capital flows. Therefore, over the medium term, we must move towards containing our current account deficit from the high level that we had reached last year.
Right, and Dr. Rangarajan, just bringing the focus back to India, you just had a meeting with the CEOs of some of the big infrastructure companies. What were the concerns they raised, and what were your reactions to that?
Well, I think the concerns that were raised dealt with the immediate problems that they had in terms of availability of coal, power, the clearances that are required in order to increase the capacity in some of these areas. They had also a concern regarding the cash flow of many of the companies which have to receive funds from the government. Well, I think we need to address both the long-term issues relating to environmental clearances, land acquisition, and so on, and also the short-term concerns of increasing the availability of coal, power, and similar other basic requirements of the economy. What we really need to do, in my view, is that we should organize ourselves in such a way that the production and capacity creation targets in some of the key infrastructure sectors which lie in the public domain, such as coal, power, roads and railways, are met during the current fiscal. this will itself act as a stimulant for private investment.
But, with Dr. Rangarajan, yesterday we had Standard & Poor's putting out a note warning India that, some of the issues that, you highlighted yourself need to be addressed quite fast, in the absence of which they will have no choice but to downgrade India. Now, would you say that S&P's concerns are a little exaggerated, or would you worry about the threat of a downgrade?
S&P's concerns are grounded in some fears, which are, in my opinion, misinformed and not well-founded. I personally think that the growth rate in the current fiscal will be better than last year. And I also think that inflation in the current fiscal will be lower than the inflation last year. And I also think that the process of liberalization introduced about a decade and a half ago will continue, and the possibility of any reversal of that doesn't exist. And I think the fears of S&P are misplaced. I would rather think that we will see an improvement in the economy in the coming fiscal rather than any deceleration.
Dr. Rangarajan, and do you believe that for the India growth story to jumpstart that we need more policy initiatives back in New Delhi rather than tinkering of rates by the Reserve Bank of India?
I think the monetary policy has a role to play in containing inflation. It has a role also to play in stimulating growth. But as far as growth is concerned, I think there are other factors beyond interest rate which have their impact. As I mentioned earlier, that the active involvement of the government in ensuring that the production targets and capacity creation targets in key infrastructure sectors like roads, power and railways and coal will be an important factor in stimulating growth in the short run.
And finally, given that the RBI will take cognizance of these dismal IIP numbers, what is the growth target for FY13? What's the number that you're foreseeing?
I think the growth rate will be between 6.5% and 7%. This is based on the assumption that agriculture growth will be normal, the monsoon will be normal, and agricultural growth will therefore be normal. It is also assumes that the international economic situation will not deteriorate any further. On these assumptions, I think the growth rate can be anywhere between 6.5% and 7% in the current fiscal.